Hi everyone, welcome back to Be Rich. I hope you had a wonderful day. And it's a Thursday. And I hope your day was productive and you managed to get back home safe without any troubles, trials, and tribulations. And you're settled down. Well, this evening I thought I'll talk about Suzlon Energy. This is a company which was very negative. Now it's being spoken very positive. A lot of you have been banging on my door about this, saying, should you be talking about this? Should you be talking about this? Some of you may feel like, what's the point? It's missed the bus. Some of you may be like, I have some of this. What should I do? Should I, because I bought it when it was crazy. Now I'm stuck with it. I feel, what do I do? So by end of this video, I hope it gives you some clarity and confidence on the decision you should make. I'm not going to tell you what to do. As I always say, it is completely up to you what you decide to do with your investments and how you plan to invest. I'm here to lay the proposition on the table and lay the cards as I see them. Then I leave it up to you to make up your mind. Suzlon is a company, right? Everyone knows about wind turbine, right? It's renewable energy, and there's a growing demand in the world for it because of climate change, because of trying to save the environment. So this is a green form of generating power. It doesn't create any pollution. It's easy to install and maintain, and it keeps creating power from the wind, the atmosphere. So that's the basics of this, what wind energy does. So what are the core business segments that Suzlon has? Well, Suzlon has the wind turbine manufacturing and sales. They're the largest windmill energy provider in India. They have a 32% market share, right? They have manufacturing facilities all across India, and their latest is a low wind turbine which they made called the S144-3.XMW. That means, I guess, MW is megawatt of some sort, but this is a turbine series which they have developed, which is a low wind. Low wind meaning usually you require a certain catchment of wind. You cannot go put a windmill anywhere and catch power. They usually are near hills and mountains where the high pressure, low pressure system, the difference in air temperature creates wind to flow, the convection, and that creates these turbines have a catchment area where it's very windy, and this is where you can generate power. That has been the case so far. Suzlon say they've got a new turbine which can do even in places which doesn't have this kind of advantage. So places which have very low wind yield, it can work there and still manage to produce some power. This is the latest thing which they've come out with when they are R&D. They do operations and maintenance, that's O&M services. So they have around 14.8 gigawatt under maintenance, including multi-brand services of other windmill assets. So they don't only service Suzlon, they service everybody else who's there in the market. So you can reach out to them. They have expertise to take care of any windmill which is there. Now, of course, everybody's got AI plugged into it. So Suzlon also has a lot of AI-based predictive maintenance and whatnot plugged into it, which adds a little more sheen because everything is AI nowadays. The third thing which they have is something known as hybrid renewal solutions. That is to use wind, solar together, and in future they plan to put on batteries. Once batteries become more viable and cheaper, as it is becoming viable and cheaper, new technologies are coming. So you can have huge battery fields where this power which is generated is stored in these batteries, and when the power demand is required, you can use it from the batteries. Makes sense. Like how we have batteries in our phones, batteries in our torchlight. You charge it and keep it, and when you want it, you have it on demand. So same idea, but on a much larger scale. So this is something they're thinking of. These are all very nice, of course. When you look about a company, you see the product offerings they have. Sounds pretty enticing as an investor, because we all would love to be in the future, as I say, future-proofing ourselves. But the financial balance sheet is what we have to look at. Here is where things get a little more interesting. If you see the metrics of Suzlon, which is equity, capital, reserves, borrowing, which is debt, total liabilities and total assets, it has painted a picture which has been changing. The reason why I'm saying changing is, if you had spoken to anyone in 2022, they would have written Suzlon off as a waste of an investment because of the simple reason the equity capital and the reserves were minus 5,000 crores, borrowings were 6,000 crores, liabilities were 6,475 crores, and total assets was 6,475 crores. So if you see the debt, it was massive and the reserves were negative. It wasn't painting a pretty picture. But what's happened is a new person has come in and has changed the fortune of the company. Reserves have been going up. meaning in 2023, the reserves from minus 5,000 crores became minus 1,000 crores, and by 2024, it became positive at 1,000 crores. And as of September 2024, it is at positive 1,764 crores, and they've become debt-free. From having 6,500 crores as debt, they've come down to a debt-free company. Almost 277 crores is nothing now. Their equity capital has grown from 1,800 crores to 2,800 crores almost. So there is a remarkable change in the bellwether of Suzlon. This has led to something that's been happening to Suzlon's price, to earnings and valuations. It has skyrocketed. Its median PE now is 79.2. That is extremely high and is an expensive valuation. This increased post 2022 because of all the earnings which I just mentioned, this recovery which has happened in earnings, and the danger of this is there's a potential for overvaluation because hubris, the market tends to get excited and become irrational, and hubris sets in and they think this party will never end, things will go on and on forever, the famous bubble. So there lies a question in Suzlon. Is Suzlon reached a point where it doesn't match what the people think the value of the company should be in terms of price, the earning potential and the future prospect of business is where the question lies. There is a huge potentiality for wind energy in India, and they're slowly getting into solar and this hybrid and this battery. All that is granted. I agree, because that is what most of you who are on the sides of Suzlon have been saying. You said the debt is down, Vinod. It's a green technology. The world needs more of this technology. India is a growing country. There's a huge power demand in India because as we are urbanizing more and more, we require more power. And this company is generating the kind of power which is safe, which is green, and it's going to be easy for us to use. And with this new hybrid solar technology with battery, we can be even in remote locations and we don't need to worry about transmissions, and we can overcome these transmission issues with this. Hang on is what I would say. The reason why I would say hang on is there is a couple of things to keep in mind. There are some challenges for Suzlon, and I thought I would lay this out in terms of what Suzlon's challenges are and where we should keep an eye on it if you are interested in Suzlon. So I've labeled this as what is the impact on Suzlon Energy, these challenges, and how maybe these can be managed by Suzlon. So this is what you should look at and analyze as an investor. The important critical thing is you've seen the company, you've seen what it offers, you see a moat, yes, but then comes the question of what future challenges it can face, and do you think this company can manage it? So there lies the argument. Here I'm going to lay it out to you, and at the end of the video, I'll leave my opinion with you, and then you can make up your mind. First, transmission and grid infrastructure issues. Well, this is where the biggest problem is for Suzlon, because it faces curtailment and forced down shutdowns when power evacuations is constrained. The power grid delays increase project lead time and capital cost. What are power grid delays? Power grid in India is set up by the government. The government sets up the power grid, the transmission lines, all this. Suzlon creates the power, then it hands it over to the government for the government's power grid. So the government will take it and transmit it. But government being government, these projects, as you know, who have lived in any Indian urban city, you can feel the frustration when government projects don't go as fast as you want it to go. It slows down. There are reasons for it. I don't want to get into nitty-gritties. Some of it is political, some of it is just the way governments work. So this project lead time, that means amount of time which has been committed by the government and actually happened, the grid coming to life, is such a difference that it increases the capital cost for Suzlon. And that capital cost will Suzlon able to bear. This Suzlon, I'm sure, will revert back to me saying, Vinod, we got hybrid wind solar solutions that reduces our dependency on these grids. So we can set up small microgrids and battery storages, which we are exploring. And this will solve this problem of relying on the government power grids and collaborating with the operators and policymakers, that we will get through this and we'll get approvals. So, local areas, certain areas, we can set up these microgrids and circumnavigate this problem. Maybe not. I don't know. That is something for you to think about as an investor. Second big problem which Suzlon could have is land acquisition and policy delays. You cannot just go take your windmill and plonk it wherever you feel like it. That land, wherever you put it, Suzlon needs to have some kind of access to that land. So there is regulatory delays and slowdowns in wind project execution, which has affected Suzlon's book orders. So Suzlon government says, okay, we need power generated, so much wind energy you guys can generate. It sends out a tender or whatever. Suzlon pitches it, then the order, Suzlon is the lowest thing, is awarded the order, but then the government is in charge of getting access for Suzlon of that piece of land. And government has to do that and hand it over to Suzlon so Suzlon can execute the project. And there again is the government problem. First was in transmission, like I said. This is where the second place where government gives Suzlon a problem. Where land acquisition, Suzlon cannot do anything, right? And that increases the cost of the power being produced. So it reduces the profitability of Suzlon. It eats into Suzlon's profits, earnings. So there lies the problem. What will Suzlon say? Well, Suzlon can say, see, we will work with state governments and get faster approvals. We'll lease the land instead of trying to outright purchase. We'll maybe try leasing the land and then do this, and maybe take old windmill sites and revamp them and reacquire the land and redo it. Maybe, I don't know. That is something for you as an investor to think about. Is this viable? Is this proposition doable? This is where you should investigate. Read about articles, dive into it, Google and see what have articles been written about this and see where it lies. Because as far as I know, I've never seen government processes getting any easier in India. If anything, it's getting harder and harder. Third place where Suzlon has power is a delayed stress in discoms. What are discoms? Discoms are the power distribution companies, right? That will be the problem because Suzlon needs payment from the government finally. When it gives the power to the government, where does Suzlon get its money? The government of India, the state government has to pay Suzlon the money. And that delay in cash flow could hurt Suzlon. This is the third place where local government can hurt Suzlon. So power producers, not only Suzlon, across the board, all power companies, this is why Anand says, face these difficulties of securing their funds, payments, cash payments, and even for new projects, they find it very hard to secure the funds. So maybe Suzlon will come out and tell me, don't worry, Vinod, we'll find private players to come and help us out. Power purchase agreements privately, like with corporates and industrial users. So reduce the dependency on government. So let's say someone's building a huge factory, a power plant, a manufacturing facility, like Reliance, Tata's Jamshedpur or wherever, a huge township, and that requires power. And that's a privately owned and corporate is operating it. Suzlon will say, I'll set up the power requirements for this. So you don't require the government to supply the power. You're off the power grid, and I'll set up and you privately have your own power and I'll help you maintain it. Maybe. I don't see how many are there right now, but that is something worth investigating, and how many of that will Suzlon be able to secure is worth thinking about. See, if that happens, Suzlon's earnings could improve, and there's a viability of the next 10 years, Suzlon getting better. Then, of course, exporting to international markets. One way to avoid this problem, local problem, is like what L&T does, do projects outside India, avoid Indian projects. Same way Suzlon can be exporting. But there's another risk when you export like that, is the payment risk. Because these kind of windmills are bought by governments, very few are bought by private entities. So, about risk of payment is always hanging on the thread over there. With this current global situation we are in, I don't know if it's worth doing that. Then, of course, Suzlon's other argument could be we're diversifying. Like I said, the hybrid idea model which they're talking about. There also see the government comes to play. Then the other fourth major problem is the import dependency. A lot of the components Suzlon uses is imported into India. And you know what happens when the Indian rupee and the dollar does the seesaw. Your costs go all over the place. These higher costs and supply chain disruptions are terrible. This currency fluctuation is terrible for a company like this. So what will you do? So Suzlon can say we'll try and localize our components, find out local suppliers, change our jerry rig and change and do jugaad to use local stuff so we don't have to depend on outside India so much. Develop some strategic partners to build factories here, explore alternative materials. This is also what Suzlon and positive investors may say. That is something for you to think. And the last place where this gets into a thing is the policy uncertainty when it comes to this and tariff risks. There is a lot of push from the government of India for green initiative and green policies and all this. How much of it actually comes into fruition and how much government support actually comes in terms of cold hard cash is something you have to think about. Suzlon can give you all kinds of arguments here too. I don't know. So these are the main reasons why I have a question mark on Suzlon. Yes, they got rid of their debt. I'm happy. For investors who have been holding on to Suzlon for some time, that must be a big relief for you to see the company coming around and turning around. I can understand that. But with this current price where it is and PE ratios where they are and all the other opportunities available in the market, I personally will not be looking into it. This is me. I'm sure you have different opinions. I would love to populate my comments down below. Tell me what you think of Suzlon. Or do you think there's a better green energy company in India which we should all be keeping an eye on other than Suzlon? I spoke about Suzlon today because a lot of you have been asking. Maybe there are other companies that are even better than Suzlon in India which we should all keep an eye on. So tell me down in the comments below, and if it gets voted up, maybe I'll talk about that in another video. Thanks for watching this video on a Thursday evening. I hope you have a wonderful day. Tomorrow's another day, 27 of our 247-day challenge. Do your tiffin coffee. The markets have been seesawing all over the place because of a lot of uncertainty from the US, Europe, and also internally in India too. So keep that in mind as you invest. Be safe there. And I'll see you tomorrow evening as we head into the weekend on a Friday evening. Thanks you for watching Be Rich today. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.
Hey guys, that my uncles Vinod Srinivasan, Anand Srinivasan and I have rolled out our Substack, which is basically a blog/newsletter where we're going to post our original research onto it, and we've analyzed macroeconomic trends. And a lot of you know my uncle Anand Srinivasan and I regularly write for The Hindu, and these articles are also going to be made available for you in the Substack. The link is moatinvesting.substack.com. You'll find it in the description and in the video right now. We hope you go check it out. We've put a lot of time and effort into it. And please give us comments and feedback on what you read. Thank you.